Oh, 19K Fox, you son of a bitch. Anyways, guys, it's Monday night. You know what that means. It's Michael B. And thank you so much for choosing to spend your time with here another Monday. Tonight, we're going to be taking a look at the ever changing home arcade landscape in 2024. A lot of companies are juggling around. There's new companies coming on the horizon. There's partnerships being made for new products that could fill a gap being left in the home arcade space. And of course, there's always Arcade1Up, the former ruler that stands atop the mountain. But could it be this year someone else reigns supreme? And I'm going to tell you more about it with my co-host, Bill's Retro Gaming Show, right after this. This is Chillin' Chat with Michael B. Well, Bill, will Arcade1Up still be king in 2024? Tell me about it, brother.
Were they ever?
Well, that's the question. And I thank you so much, Bill Retro Gaming Show, for being here. Bill, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me tonight. We've been on like huge panel shows and stuff in the past, but this is the first time we've ever done a one-on-one show. I just wanted to see what your actual background looked like without no green screen, but you couldn't even give me that, could you? I see the green screen back there.
Just the one piece right
All
here. The
right,
rest is
all right.
This is
au natural.
All real. Whoops! As I knock shit over.
So, funny
See,
story.
that proves it's real.
Funny story, back in the days of when I used to do a lot of my NES videos, and I'd have my giant wall of NES videos behind me. People would come on and they'd be like, "Oh, you don't have any NES games. That's all green screen." And I was like, I'm just going to start picking games off the shelf just so they can say it's not green screen. What did I use then? Final Cut Pro? Did I edit that in? All right, so tonight I thought it'd be a little bit of a fun conversation. You just asked, were they ever king of the home arcade space? And I guess that's debatable for some people. Depends on where you think the home arcade space begins, ends, all that stuff. So
Sure.
back in the old days, the really old days, the first time I remember seeing what I would consider to be a home arcade retail product, I remember being like 16, 17, maybe a little bit older, going to Costco, and this would have been in the 90s, and they used to sell these multicades there, and they'd have Capcom games and stuff like that on it, and I was like, how friggin' cool would that be? Like, it was this $700 Canadian at the time multicade that you could bring home, and I thought that was the coolest shit in the entire world. Looking back on it, it was probably a terrible product, but at the time, it was just so unheard of, right? Like, outside of people doing, like, BYO, build your own kits, something along the lines of that. I think the Pixel Bash might have been out a little bit earlier than Arcade1Up. And then you had like game room solutions, all that kind of stuff. But there was never really a one and done easy retail option until Arcade1Up hit the space. Namco went to Walmart, said, we want to build a Pac-Man arcade. Lo and behold, Tastemakers won the bid, and here we are.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I was thinking about Pixel Bash. I wasn't sure if they were before or after, and they're an interesting product too, but they're also really expensive comparison. You're talking a couple $1,000s for a Pac-Man machine. It may have more games on it than the Arcade1Up does, but yeah, it's definitely a much more expensive option than an Arcade1Up machine.
That's the question. Is it still in this category retail, or maybe it's considered more high end? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I mean, for me, it really started at Arcade1Up when they came out. When was it? 2017, 2018, somewhere around there. I remember 2018, I think. Yeah, it was 2018. Right around Black Friday, I bought my first ever Arcade1Up. They had just gone on slight sale for Black Friday, and I got Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. And that was the first wave, and I was like, I'm just going to buy one, right? What was the first home arcade product you remember buying?
The first one I bought was the Tempest the Atari one.
Tempest Atari
That was the
Legacy.
first one. Yeah, that was the first one that I got. I'd been keeping an eye on. I've been noticing them and wanting one for
Yeah.
a while. I remember, again, same thing. You'd go into Walmart and they'd have like the Galaga Galaxian one set up that you could play,
Yeah.
or might see Star Wars or Mortal Kombat, all those first run ones. And I kept thinking, and every time I go to Walmart, I keep thinking, I'm just gonna pick one of these up, and then I'd be like, and where the hell am I going to put it? And that like kept me
From
off
doing it.
for
Yeah.
the longest time.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, I said, you know what? The heck with it. Kind of like you. I'll just get one. I can find space for it. It'll go, I had my office set up. I was working, by that point I was working from home. When they first came out, I wasn't working from
magic
home.
words, magic words, working from home. Yeah.
I was working from home. I had my little home office set up. I said I could put it behind me. When I want to take a break from work, I can turn around and play a quick game and whatever. It'll be fun. And that just kind of led to, converting half my house into a game room. And, a dozen of these things.
Yeah, quite a few of these.
Like potato chips. You can't have just one.
See, they weren't as prevalent in Canada right away. Like, we got the first wave, but then we didn't get Gen 2 here in Canada. So we got no Mortal Kombat, no Final Fight. Just didn't come here. And I kept abreast of it. I had my one that I bought, and I was sold by RGT85. And there was a bunch of people in my home arcade space that I thought pretty fondly of. Guys like RGT85. There was also 8-Bit Eric. It just goes by 8BE now on YouTube. But like a bunch of the people I knew and followed and talked to for years, they were all buying these. They all really liked them. So it was Street Fighter, and then I held off until I found out Turtles was coming. We were actually going to be able to get Turtles here in Canada through GameStop, and I was like, well, I got to get Turtles. And then everything went downhill from there, and I ruined my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, they were really the first out of the gate, and they really have been the biggest if you want to take a look at quantity sold. And I'm not saying in terms of quality, not by any means, but in terms of quantity sold, market saturation, or whatever you want to call it. Arcade1Up are really the leading force in this. And as much as I love like all the different products I always have, I love iArcade, love AtGames and stuff like that. This whole space really goes up and down depending on the success of Arcade1Up. I know that's going to be a hard statement for people to hear, but it's 100% true, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah.
Home arcade right now lives and breathes on kind of what Arcade1Up does. But I think 2024 is going to be the year where maybe that gets a little bit different. I think it was different in 2023, but 2023 overall was a down year in retail. There wasn't a lot coming out from any company. 2024 is where things are going to change. So that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So Arcade1Up have had their day in the sun. They've done amazing things, hit so many speed bumps over the course of the last couple of years, and now they're at a point where I think that crown that they've been wearing for so many years is vulnerable. And you probably don't see it the same way as me, Bill. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? I bought Tempest. Tempest is still good. I don't know if Tempest is still good. A lot of people's encoder boards went shit the bed on
I've been lucky. Knock on wood. It's been running good. It doesn't get as much, being the older one and whatever. It probably doesn't get as much play as some of the newer ones right now. But every time I turn it on and I want to play it, it's still working. So there's that. It's definitely an interesting subject. And part of the issue is that in some respects, you can actually say Arcade1Up is the only game in town. And what I mean by that is they're the only ones right now who are making
recreations.
Thank you.
In a larger scale. Yeah.
Exactly. In a larger scale, recreations. All these other companies, whether it was iArcade or even AtGames, they're Multicades. They're not making recreations of arcade machines. They basically have one product that does the same thing. You can get them in some certain different skins and whatever. Again, whether it was iArcade, whether it's AtGames, now they're coming out with the Killer Instinct. Yeah, they're coming out with something that looks like Killer Instinct, but it's still an AtGames multicade. So, Arcade1Up is the only game in town, really, when you look at it that way. And I would love to see somebody step up and come into that end of the market. beyond
We're
that.
gonna, we're gonna get there, Bill. We're gonna get there. And you touched on a really good one
Yep.
right now. I've said it for the last couple of years. People came into the space, they were like, Arcade1Up, everything's cool. But after a while, they were starting to realize, hey, I can't play certain games on this. AtGames came about, and there came the rise of the multicades, right? Like people
Mhm.
wanted different things. They might have been unsatisfied with different things from Arcade1Up, what they were doing. One of which was just, that AtGames Legends Ultimate. It offered so much versatility with BYOG, and then of course coin
Mhm.
ops. People could bring whatever they wanted. All the games that we wanted to experience that weren't available through Arcade1Up, we could just play there. As long as you weren't jonesing for that nostalgia fix, you could go over there. And that really became the rise of the multicade. Might have been a good option. iArcade was still coming up. There seemed like so much hope
Mhm.
on the iArcade side. There was
Yep.
this rise of the
Agreed.
multicades there about 2 years ago. There's still a chance for multicades. I think multicades are stronger than ever now because I think most people are pretty disappointed with the direction Arcade1Up's going in. So now multicades might have a very big future, and even bigger so, funny enough, with iArcade out of the picture and maybe with AtGames or what are doing in the future. Jason Little Alien brings up an awesome comment here I want to bring up. Most Arcade1Ups are still multicade dedicated to one license. They just do it form, vector, and art better. That's 100% right. I mean,
Yeah, to a degree.
to a
Yeah.
degree, yeah, 100% right. But here's where you almost got to classify multicades in a very weird way. You have an open multicade, which means you can play whatever you want on it, and then you have a limited multicade, right? Which is
Right.
that's what Arcade1Up is, more of a limited multicade. And we got a $5 super chat here from Josh McKinley. Arcade1Up will fail because they refuse to evolve the product like others. Look at Guys. They used to make shitty plug and plays. Now they're making the 4KP. Thank you very much for the super chat. 100%. That was one of
Yeah.
AtGame's key
That's totally
things
true.
was, changing people's opinions of the brand, and they did that. They did that with their AtGames Legends Ultimate. They certainly did it with their AtGames Legends Pinball, and more
Yeah.
with the 4KP, which we're going to talk about a little bit. I still haven't got my hands on it, but you have, Bill, so I'm going to ask you a little bit
Yep.
about that. So going back, that multicade section, that's something that was there, and it's something that's coming there again, and we'll go there first, I guess. So AtGames really made a dominant couple of moves in 2023 that could lead to them being, like, honestly, the head of the pack moving into 2024. Arcade1Up, we don't know what they're doing yet. There's a presumption they might have slowed down quite a bit, especially looking.
Hmm.
They released a lot of titles last year, but nothing new. So it really seems like AtGames have a chance to really cement themselves as the leader in the home arcade space this year. They made a couple announcements last year, really big ones. The first one was acquiring the Killer Instinct license, sniping that
Right.
right from under the rug from Arcade1Up. Did that shock you when that announcement went out? Like, did you see that coming?
Oh, I definitely didn't see it coming. I don't know if it shocked me so much, um, but I definitely didn't see it coming. I didn't think that they were going to go that route and get into that license. And again, not only get Killer Instinct, not only get Battletoads, but get actually a whole bunch of other games from Rare that are going to be available on their system. Obviously, Killer Instinct, Battletoads being the high profile ones,
Yeah.
but there's what was like a dozen or so other games that they mentioned that are also going to be available.
Yeah, it's one of the things with the versatility of what AtGames is doing is that AtGames can do more than just the arcade titles because Rare's arcade library is kind of limited after Killer
Right.
Instinct 1 and 2 and Battletoads. After that, there's not much there to offer, but they've got some NES games, they've got some more modern games that they did with Microsoft.
Hmm.
So there's a lot there from the IPs that they're working with. We know what's coming out in that Rare game pack. That's going to be
Yep.
exciting, but
Yep.
also for the pinball ecosystem, they're going to be making pinball games based
Right.
on Killer Instinct, Battletoads, and then you're going to get into some of the newer themes like Sea of Thieves and shit like that. So,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
good
That's going to be really
opportunities
interesting. Yeah.
that maybe
And
Arcade One Up couldn't
yeah.
offer.
Yeah. And I know this is a little bit like adjacent, but it's interesting to notice that Nintendo Switch on their online, they just got a bunch of those older Rare titles on there too, RC Pro Am and all that kind of stuff. So it's very interesting. So I guess Microsoft and Rare are really trying to branch out and get
Well,
their old stuff on, as many platforms as they can, which always just makes sense.
yeah, I mean, it seems like Microsoft That's a different conversation. This is more of a console-based conversation, but
Oh yeah, I know, but it
Microsoft,
just goes into the whole
yeah,
thing.
Microsoft seemed to be diversifying their portfolio. They went out, they got so many game studios, and I thought the idea was that they saw gaming changing, like same way cable TV and stuff like that changed. So they saw gaming changing to, instead of it just being releases and physical releases sold, they saw this opportunity for streaming services, stuff like Game Pass versus PlayStation Now. So they went and did the Turner method of, if we're going to have a TV station, we need all the content. So they went out and they bought all the gaming companies to have all this content they could offer for their thing. But I
Mhm.
think they're rethinking things now. RC Pro-Am that's owned by Microsoft and Rare, Birds, Bees, and Trees. So that's going to
Yeah,
be available on the AtGames Legends Ultimate coming up in the Rare pack. But it
right.
also just got
And it's also on
announced
Switch right
for,
now.
yeah, announced for Nintendo Switch Online. So you can play RC Pro-Am. Is it two-player co-op through Switch Online?
I don't know. I'd have to go
Oh,
back and
that'd be
check
cool.
it. It would be cool if it is. I know they've added that to a lot of their online games. So
Yeah. So knowing his power brings up a good point that I just want to bring up here. At Games Pinball is where they took off. We'll go back there
mhm.
because yeah, you're right. Even though the Killer Instinct was the announcement, the first big win for At Games, win for At Games, was the pinball going back a couple years ago because Arcade1Up released their pinball. They went out, they got Zen, they spent all the money, they had the hot licenses, they had the really good looking pinball machines. But at the end of the day, AtGames just said, yeah, well, we got Gottlieb. We're going to go out and get Zachariah. And you can bring your own games through a PC. And we have a 32-inch playfield that's 1080p. And everybody was just like, it's a better machine. So there you go.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was the first win. So following that, Killer Instinct, Rare, that was exciting. Then, of course, they announced the AtGames Legends Pinball 4K P, and this was the first big product anybody had announced in a while, and we all went nuts. We were like, "Oh, something new to talk about, the fun," because there was
Yes.
nothing for
Yep.
years. So we were
Yep.
getting a new product, which was big. And I remember doing a show talking about what AtGames could do. And I said, going out and pinball so hard because you're not going to get Stern on board. It's hard to get one of these
Right.
other licenses. And I said, I know Zen is under a partnership with Arcade1Up, but if there's any way you could get Zen licenses, that would change everything. So what did they
Oh yeah.
do? They went and got Zen.
Yes, they did.
So, I mean, like if this was just pinball, competition's over. AtGames won. AtGames is in the retail virtual pinball space. AtGames is number one, unquestionably. There is no
Oh,
competition at all.
100%. There is nobody. Well, look. First of all, we all know with almost certainty that Arcade One Up is done with pinball.
Yeah,
They're just not going to do it again.
they
They're
can't
just
do it.
not.
They can't do
And
it.
there isn't anybody in that space right now. And in terms of a machine like this from At Games, if you wanted to get anything comparable, you're going to go to one of these, custom built places, and you're going to spend 3, 4, 5 grand to get something close to this that you can, get from them for 1,500 to 2,000.
Your compadre, Evil Genius Entertainment, who also got a loaner ALP
Yes, he
4KP
did.
for
Yeah, he did a
review,
great review on it too.
he did a great job explaining that in the review. And that's one of the
Yep.
things I said. Everybody's shitting on the ALP for price, other things like that. I was like, I don't think you understand what you're getting here in a retail space compared to how
Yep.
much this would cost to piece out and build from like an outside company. Now, of
Right.
course, this stuff is on not exactly at the highest end of that, but the highest
Right.
end of that is also like $8,000, right?
Right. Right. Now, I mean, if you wanted to do what a lot of those machines do, what you're talking, you can do that with the At Games. You get your own PC,
Yeah.
you hook it up, and you do it. A good high, PC that's going to do that is probably going to be another couple $1,000s and whatever. So yeah, you're going to creep close to that, but that's an option. You don't have to do that. And if you've got a machine that will already do it, you're halfway there. So
Yeah. Just the base to hook the PC up to. That's the important thing here now. We're
mhm.
talking probably
Yes,
what, $4,000 or $5,000 for that part alone.
right, sure, easy. From
Yeah,
what I've seen from a lot of companies, I mean, there are some that make them closer in price range, 2, 3 grand to the At Games, but the really high end ones are, like you said, 5, 6, 7 grand. I mean, you're creeping into real pinball money at that point anyway.
Pinball money, you say? Anyways, so we're getting a little bit off track here, but that's really the question. AtGames now come up with the 4K ALP. They also have the Zen Studios licenses. They've conquered that. So, I mean, if you want to look at pinball as a component of home arcade, I mean, AtGames already have such a force there. Plus, we got a new ALU 4K coming up in the near future. We've already seen that they're going to bring Killer Instinct. The question now is, what else could they bring? Now, you're all probably already saying, well, we got BYOB, so it doesn't really matter. But it does matter, because there was another company called iArcade out there a little while ago, and we all were pulling for iArcade if they could get the right licenses. We were like, how cool would it be to play, Street Fighter on your iArcade? But it'll probably never happen. How cool would it be to play Killer Instinct? But it'll probably never happen. So even though you can play games BYOG through AtGames, what if they go out now and go get licenses? Like, they go out and they've secured Killer Instinct and Rare. What if they go out and they get Street Fighter? They bring Street Fighter into the AtGames ecosystem. You can buy a pack with a bunch of Capcom games, and then all of a sudden you pay for that. They have online connectivity. You can now play people, one-on-one, same as you can do with your Arcade1Up Street Fighter Championship Edition cabinet, Champion cabinet. Would you be interested in buying game packs with that? And then does that add another element to this in the multicade space, where what we missed out from iArcade, we can now possibly do with AtGames going forward?
Oh, I think it's absolutely a possibility. First off, not knowing the state of things with Arcade1Up, where they are in terms of licenses, now that they've had their shakeups, people like John D no longer being there. We know he, again, not saying that just because he's gone means they don't have the licenses.
No, it doesn't mean that at all.
Doesn't mean that at all. But he was very good at being the liaison for that and making sure that they kept the licenses and going out. He had a lot of contacts.
What I would say John was better at was not so much just getting the licenses, but preventing other companies from getting the licenses.
Well, so there is a little there's a little bit of that too. But to that point, I think it means that anything is on the table.
Yeah.
Look, these companies don't necessarily have an allegiance to somebody like Arcade1Up. If you're willing to pony up the money for the license and it gets their product in more people's hands and it's more money for them, of course they're going to go for it. I mean, look at it. That's that little, what is it, the Evercade?
Yeah.
Thing has a bunch of Capcom games built into it. If they can get the Capcom license, why can't AtGames?
Exactly, right? There was like a little bit of a weird thing with the Evercade, is they couldn't do a cart. For whatever reason, they couldn't offer it as a cart. It had to be built onto the device. So whatever kind of licensing mumbo jumbo was there, had to be a cart. So there it is.
Yep. Well, they could go to AtGames and say, all right, well, build us a Capcom machine with a bunch of the games built into that as well. And then your other games that you can add on and whatever. Why not?
Can you imagine a Games Legends Ultimate Big Blue? How tall and thin would that thing be? It never happened. I don't think it'll go in that direction. But, a lot of people have always said from Arcade1Up, one of the things they would like to see from this company is cabinets where you could add extra games. That may never be something Arcade1Up does, but it's something AtGames already has the capabilities to do.
It's something they almost did.
What, Arcade1Up?
Yes.
Oh, well,
there's a lot of speculation that they were going to come out with an MVSX.
Well, I know that. That's the only appropriate way to do that.
Supposed to have the ability to download games. John has heavily hinted at that recently, that was in the works and fell through.
Yes.
And that would have been amazing. I would have bought that 100%. That would have been great.
So 100%, I think that's the only way they could do it. I always said that I didn't want Arcade1Up to get the Neo Geo license, SNK license, because I said it'd be a waste. What are you gonna do? You're gonna do a Metal Slug cab with like
Right.
weird old art on the front, and then you're gonna do another King of Fighters cab. That's that. If you're gonna do arcade recreations, those things never existed. It was a big red.
Right.
Do a big red, and that's why SNK Unico was such a good partner because they just
Hmm.
did a big red and threw 50 games on it. It was a little
Right.
fighter heavy for me, but they had a better concept than I think Arcade1Up would have done personally. But a big red XL, which was the rumor, with the ability to add more games, smart. I don't think you'll get the arcade recreation again with at games. Like, I don't think the nostalgia factor is the biggest thing. You'll get some with the marquee up top, which I love, the bit LCD marquee as
Yeah.
you're scrolling through your games. But really, the nostalgia, that's not where you're going to get your nostalgia. That's the question. Right? If you're cool
Right.
playing it and lots of really cool options in a multicade, at games is the way to go. So we very well could see a passing of the torch or a passing of the crown this year. I mean, if Arcade1Up doesn't have much coming up, the only thing we know of right now is X-Men 97. We're told we'll get more announcements in June, but
Hmm.
if it's another year of just rehashes, like if they do, another Buck Hunter, or think about the lamest thing they could do, like an XL Golden Tee. I mean, there really is a space
Yeah.
there for people to say, I'm going to spend my home arcade dollars elsewhere. And
Yeah.
if AtGames keeps bringing it, like they did with the ALP 4KP, I still haven't tried it, but Bill, you just got a chance to check it out, so you can tell me a little bit about that. What was your experience like with the ALP 4KP? You own the original ALP.
Hmm.
You've had a chance to
Yep.
play the LP 4KP now. Do you think people should upgrade?
I do. I do. I do think that there is enough there for people to look at. First off, if you don't own one, you go with the 4K over the HD. If you can swing it, do it. If you do own it, you know, like I said before I tried it, I would have said no. I'll stick with my HD.
Yeah.
Now that I've had to try, especially with the SSF kit, for me, for my money, that add-on is worth more even than the fact that it's a 4K display. The 4K display looks nice. The tables look nice on it. They really do look great. But that sound system that really adds to the immersion, makes it sound like the ball is rolling from one end of the table to the next. The bumpers and spinners and everything going off in the right areas, uh, really just gets you that much closer to the real feel of a pinball machine. Add to that the bigger back box, the dedicated DMD, all that stuff just makes for just a much nicer experience. And for those that like to do things OTG and whatever, moving those ports to the back of the thing, they never should have been on the front there in the first place. The only thing I wish they hadn't kept the volume on the front there too. It's a little like if you want to change volume while you're playing for whatever reason, it's a little hard to do. There should be volume controls at the front of the machine. Maybe
Yeah.
you've got that little control pad there with nothing else there. Why aren't the volume controls there? Why isn't the channel button there in the front? Why is it still at the back of the machine? But that's nitpicky, to be honest with you. The rest of the experience, I found great. I think the tables it comes with are a little meh. There's some fun experiences. The National History tables I think are fun. Most of the Zakaria tables are just okay. You're gonna want to buy the other tables that are available. You'll get bored very quick, and they just need to dial in those Zen tables a little bit more. They're not. And I hear that word unplayable. So even still, I'm hearing people say it's unplayable. It's not unplayable. It's tricky. You have to get used to it a little bit. They like I said, they definitely need to dial it in, but they're getting closer.
I haven't played it myself, but I'll almost question that. Is it really unplayable, or is it, needs a little work? And I guess I won't be able to make my own comment until I get my hands on this thing whenever it gets here. So hopefully the experience is good. Hopefully it's more along the lines. I think people just say unplayable because one, Anything less than perfect is unplayable in their mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Especially with
Unfortunately,
pinball. I guess there's so much precision, but I remember early days of playing like Zen Pinball when it first came out, Pinball FX on the Epic Game Store. There was quirks with it too, and I never found it unplayable. I just found it, challenging, and I guess that will be it
yes,
now. You're playing some of the games that are a little bit more challenging than they need to
yeah.
be. Yeah,
Yeah, and
but
especially a table like Adam's Family, which is a challenge to begin with. That's a hard
yeah,
table to play. Add in the fact that that there's a little bit of lag there when you're hitting that flipper, and it just makes it a little more challenging. Although I got to tell you, I'm certainly no pinball expert. I'm sitting there and I'm seeing scores of 8, 10, 12 million on it, and then the high scores come up and they're like 50 million, 100 million. I'm like, okay, it can't be that bad if people are getting these kind of scores on the game.
yeah. So, AtGames is in a really cool position right now. They've got a lot of momentum going with the 4KP. Let's see what they do on the arcade side. If they can bring in some more of these big titles now that there seems to be a gap from Arcade1Up, maybe that'll fill a niche. That'll fill a niche from the core community where people are saying this is something we wanted. We wanted a la carte services to our Arcade1Up cabinets.
Mhm.
AtGames has already done this, but maybe they can do it with more, enticing titles, the ones that people want, and
Yeah.
maybe that'll turn the tide. So that's one option. And multicade, multi-pin, AtGames is well versed in that. But it's impossible not to talk about the other gap in the market that Arcade1Up is leaving right here. We've talked about it for the last couple of weeks here on this show. Arcade1Up isn't going to make a lot of the arcades people want. That's just a fact. Right now, they're in kind of like a standstill, spinning their wheels, where they're just, they introduced the deluxe line. There's a lot of rehashes. I don't even like using that word. There's a lot of re-releases in the deluxe line to get it up to that form factor. But Arcade1Up is also tied to they have to work directly with the retailer. I mean,
Right.
Arcade1Up can't release whatever the hell they want. They can't just say tomorrow, bam, we're doing a super off road and then bring it to market. That's not how it works.
Right.
They can conceptualize a super off road, make sure they got the license, make sure they can make it. But unless a retailer picks it up, it'll never see the light of day. So Arcade1Up can only do what the retailers let them do, which leaves a gap because right now, if the retailers aren't pushing them, they can't really meet what the core audience wants. So that's why there's a possibility another company could come into this space and maybe offer that product that Arcade1Up can't make. Another product that doesn't work directly with the retailers and actually turns around and sells directly to consumers. And that product,
Hmm.
that company, of course, is New Wave Toys. And we've heard about this
Yep.
rumor for weeks and weeks and weeks and months, going all the way back to September when we went to the Cleveland Gaming Classic. It's been going on since there. That New Wave Toys are doing this partnership with Glenn's Retro Show for a new controller that he's never really made before,
Hmm.
going into what is to be a large scale New Wave Toys cab coming out to the market. And we all see this as our saving grace in the space. There's
Yeah.
cabs we're never going to get again that should be easy things like Centipede with a vertical screen. We'll never see it from Arcade1Up again. I will, is, I don't have any faith we'll see another Centipede with a vertical screen.
No.
But New Wave Toys, they can do it. New Wave Toys does, 1, 2 game cabs. They have no problem doing that. They come out and they release high quality arcade recreations. So we go back to that arcade recreation thing. New
Right.
Wave Toys is that company teamed with our buddy Glenn Planamento to offer this new product. Could they fill this gap?
Oh, I think they absolutely could. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm right there with you. We both know our good friend Stephen Haywood, the Tech Buzz. He's been swearing up and
Yep.
down for months and
650.
months and months that
650.
that's it. Yeah, which would be an amazing price if they can actually if they could do it and pull it off and give us the recreations we want. Even I think people would pay that, even if it's just got, like you said, 1 or 2 games on it. If it's got that nostalgia, if it hits that, hits those feels and,
Yeah.
and gives you the recreation that you want, I think people would definitely do it. And hopefully it's something really different and really interesting that we haven't seen before. I did, like I said, way back when, I can't say what it was, but I did hear about one that they were considering that they chose not to do, but I will just say it's been done before.
Please tell me that they're not doing Golden Tee.
I will say it's one that's been done before, but it doesn't matter because they like I said, they were thinking about it and now they decided to go in a different direction.
I
Anyway.
hope
So
that's the truth, because
that kind
I
of
was
made
told
me
I was told
realize
Golden
that, yeah,
Tee.
this is for real.
I was told Golden Tee. I will openly say it. I was told Golden Tee. And I don't want it to be Golden Tee because that's not a new Wave Toys product to me. So if it's not Golden Tee, I'm hopeful because, I look at what New Wave Toys brings to the market, the love and passion they put into it. So say even if they did new Golden Tee, I said this last week, it'll be the best Golden Tee on the market by far. It'll be the one to own. No doubt about it. Price, quality, everything. That's what they're known for. I would have no doubt that is the Golden Tee to own. It's just we don't want Golden Tee. Charlie Chuck is saying food fight with a 49-way stick. And I will tell you this, if it is food fight, I will be the first person in line. I will plunk down my money. I will purchase it day one because there's no way anybody else is making stand-up food fight cab, and I'm completely here for it.
No. That's a wild looking cab. I mean, obviously they've done it already in the 1/6 scale. I have the smaller one.
Yeah, I got it too.
No, you do too. And it's a great looking cab. It would be amazing looking in anybody's arcade room for sure. But I'm kind of hoping that if this is direction they're going to go with, that they pull out something that they haven't already done in the 1/6 scale, something really interesting that we haven't seen yet. So I don't know what, but I'm hoping it's something just totally new. Again, people have mentioned this, and it would make a lot of sense with Glenn doing that Ikari Warrior stick. That would be the one. That would definitely be a contender if they were to put out Ikari Warriors.
It would be a cool stick. The Ikari Warriors games suck, so I'd be pretty disappointed about the game selection. Ikari Warriors does suck. Maybe that's just my Nintendo days pissing me off about Ikari Warriors. But honestly,
it's definitely different when you play with the real controls.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
it's like
I suck at it because I'm used to the Nintendo way to play it.
It's like playing Heavy Barrel on the ALU. You're like, this is not how you play it. Calvin Wong knows Heavy Barrel. There you go. Yep. I love Heavy Barrel on the NES, but the arcade version pisses me off playing it on Multicade.
There's a bunch of games that could go with that stick for sure.
Yeah.
Heavy Barrel Frontline. There's definitely a few that would benefit from it. So it is one potential.
19K Fox's Think Up is coming out with a candy cab. If there's anybody with greasy inside candy cab knowledge, it's 19K Fox. Trust me. It's right in there with the guys from Unico. He bought 75% of the Phoenix Series monitors they sold. They love that guy.
and he's put them in every Street Fighter Deluxe that's been made so far.
Jason Little Alien, my moderator, he's thinking the same thing I'm thinking. Out of all the games they could put out, you think Ikari Warriors and Golden Tee would be the first out of the gate to test the waters? I can't see that creating a positive buzz. I'm with you on that one, Jason. I don't think Ikari Warriors is your first shot off the mass. But and what Glenn said is the controller he never did before. So that was the hint he gave. He already made the Ikari Warrior sticks and sold them.
Right.
Nothing against those sticks.
That would have eliminated Golden Tee too, because he's already done trackballs.
He's never done a larger size trackball. That's a different controller. The Golden Tee trackball is bigger.
Okay.
What other controllers Glenn never done? Glenn's done everything. Is it an arm wrestling cab? I've never seen him make an arm wrestling controller.
I don't know. I mean, like you said, he's done that the Ikari Warriors one. He's done flight yokes. Technically, he hasn't done a steering wheel.
Yeah, technically.
So there is that. Could be a driving cab.
I
That would
think
be
that
interesting.
I think that New Wave Toys has a huge opportunity here. The core fan base is never going to get what they want from Arcade1Up. Arcade1Up is mainstream. They have to please the retailers. You're only going to get like your top tier releases. And like, I'm a guy that loves Robotron. If you watch 19K Fox's
Yeah.
show that he did last night, like the finale was Smash TV versus Qbert, and everybody was like, it's Mike B versus P Dubs, and I was like, I don't want to Smash
No,
TV cab. Why
no.
does everybody keep saying I want to Smash TV cab? And I know if they do it, that's the only way it's going to get done. Whatever, and we'll have to suck it up. But like for me, I want a Robotron cab. I want to
Yeah.
have nostalgia for Robotron. I don't know how much nostalgia from Robotron I'm going to get from playing Robotron on a Smash TV cab. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Is that really going to be a better experience for me than playing it on my AtGames Legends Ultimate? No. I mean, at least I've got the marquee in the background there, right?
Yeah, very true. I mean, like we know we've all said this. If Arcade1Up is going to do it, it's probably going to be Smash TV, partially because I'm sure they feel that's more recognizable, partially because that game's going to be on there anyway, and you're going to need the two-player for two sticks each setup,
Yeah.
which would look weird on a I guess on a Robotron themed cab. But I
They did
still
four sticks on Burger Time.
yeah, well, that was weird to begin with, but I I still would love to see them, do these cabs and then do, retail on, do like a Shop Hippo skin of Robotron. But I don't know. Maybe that's another topic, but I wonder if those days are gone too, of, reskinning, a Mortal Kombat to Joust. You know, I I have a feeling those days are gone. I have a feeling we're going to see, one release, and that's the release. You're going to get your Mortal Kombat theme with Mortal Kombat. You're going to get your Street Fighter theme with Street Fighter. And that's
I don't know about that. I think you're going to get your Mortal Kombat theme with Mortal Kombat 2, the movie. I think you're going to get your Street Fighter with
okay.
Nabisco Shreddies. I don't know. It's going to be tied.
Yeah,
I'm
at this
just
point, who
joking.
the hell knows, right?
Yeah. I don't know what Arcade1Up's doing. I love Arcade1Up, and I would love for them to surprise me this year. It's just I don't have a lot of hope after hearing like the Canadian retailer tell me like it's going to be a slow year. Oh, Darren Kane here dropping some knowledge. The restrictor gate joysticks was sent out to owners soon after the release. That did happen for some of the owners, but for those of us who got our later cabinets with our pre-orders, they were already installed, Darren, and mine was installed, but actually broke one of the wires on my cab, so I couldn't press the down button, and I had to resolder it to get it working. So some people got restrictor gates after the fact. Some people got them installed at the factory. What they did is they came into the Arcade1Up shop, they opened up the box, opened up the panel, put in the restrictor gates, sealed it back up, and sent it out. Some rare instances, like with mine,
Stop bothering to test it, probably.
they broke my stick. So, anyways, that's where we are with New Wave Toys. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that all the rumors are bullshit because New Wave Toys is actually really super close to the best. I've never heard any real rumor come out that was true. Even the stuff they told me is like, I don't know. Charlie Chuck says New Wave will bring their full size to Cleveland.
Maybe
That was what they were supposed to do last year, Charlie.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I think
Apparently, whatever's going on, there's some last minute, deals that they gotta, T's they gotta cross, I's they gotta dot because
Bill,
Shiloh
that was supposed to be weeks ago.
Like
It was supposed to be
2
weeks
weeks
ago.
I know he was supposed to announce this like 3 weeks ago, and it's still not there yet. So
I'm waiting patiently. Believe me, us of us in the home arcade space, this is not just YouTubers waiting for news and something to talk about. We're legitimately excited about the prospect of what this is. This is our shining hope in the darkness to continue our arcade recreation life after Arcade1Up continues making their toy recreation cabs or whatever they're doing over there with X-Men 97. It's got to get better from here, Bill, with Arcade1Up.
Yeah,
It's got to.
God, I hope so.
I'm really hoping X-Men 97 is the low point of the year and everything's going to go up from here. And that's what I'm hoping. But, we're waiting on new Wave Toys. Hopefully they got something cool coming out. Hopefully the rumors are wrong. It's not Golden Tee. Hopefully it's something really cool, something really
Yeah.
unique, something along the lines of what they already released, like those cool core 80s games.
Yeah.
Cubert made it right to the grand finale with Smash TV last night on 19K Fox's show. If it's a Cubert cab, day one buy. I think that would be a huge win for New Wave Toys.
Yes.
If you could get anything you wanted, what would it be from New Wave Toys?
Oh God, that's tough. That's tough. There's so many games. I mean, I know
That's not fair.
if I could get
XP97
any
is the hands down the best new cab this year. It's the only cab, James. It's the only cab.
James is awesome. He's great. Um, Look, if I could get anything and it didn't end up and licensing was not an issue, give me Donkey Kong.
I
But
knew you were
that's
gonna say
never
that.
going to happen.
Be realistic.
Yeah.
If you could have anything, but be realistic.
Spy Hunter.
Oh, interesting choice.
That would
Spy
be an
Hunter.
interesting one. I've always loved that game. I think with the proper controls, that would be a fun game to have.
For me, obviously Robotron would be number one. Robotron
Yeah.
2084, if they could do it. That one's a bit of a hard one, though. I'll actually add that back to the unrealistic category, too, because the rights for that one are a little bit weird. WB owns the rights, but like apparently John D had to figure that out and work with them. So I don't know if it's that easy for any other company to get it. So that might
Yeah.
be outside of like 19K Fox. And man, this son of a bitch. I think Robotron will be hard. I've said it. I want them to do a Centipede because I know Centipede, in my opinion, is probably one of the most beautiful arcade cabinets of all time. Like it's gorgeous, it's art, and no one else is going to do it with a vertical screen other than New
Right.
Wave Toys. So I miss Centipede so bad. I know it's probably not the one on the top of everybody's list, but man, just imagine, that 5/6 scale or full scale Centipede down in your arcade with that beautiful art, proper vertical screen, great GRS trackball. How good
Yes.
would that be?
Oh, it would be great. And while you're at it, throw Millipede in there, and
Yes.
perfect.
But see, this is the down. This is the down about New Wave
I
Toys.
know.
People got to remember because
Yes.
everybody shits on Arcade1Up when Arcade1Up only puts like 2 or 3 games in a cab. They're like, oh, I don't know if that's good value. But sometimes it's the multiple games which creates the problem. You get
Yes.
like 12 and 13 games in there, and then they got to mess around with the controls to the point where it kills the nostalgia and it kills the arcade accuracy, right? So,
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I just think, look, we've seen it. Obviously, New Wave Toys had done it before. If it makes sense, do it. If it doesn't, don't. I think Centipede and Millipede go together well enough that you could make the case that they could do both. But even like to your point, if it was just Centipede, I still think it would be a gorgeous cab and something people would love to have.
so it's definitely going to be either Akari Warriors or Golden Tee. You heard it here first from Metro Bill.
That's right. That's right.
Jason brings up House of the Dead, and a lot of people have been asking about Sega. You guys got to understand with Sega. Sega
That's
is
a
an
tough game.
expensive license to work with.
Yeah.
Like they are home arcade kryptonite, and it sucks because there's so much stuff I'd love to see. Like New Wave Toys Golden Axe Cab, a New Wave Toys Moonwalker, for God's sakes, something like that. But
Oh, yeah,
Sega,
good luck with that one.
yeah, I know. Sega is just really, really difficult to work with. They want a lot of money. Going back to when they sold iArcade a bunch of games, the rumor was that they gave iArcade Shadow Dancer, which is Shinobi 2, sort of, Shadow Dancer, Space Harrier, Midnight Resistance, and what else was it? It was like 4 or 5 Atari games. I can't remember all of them now. But anyways, they weren't like the top games. Alien Syndrome, I think, was another one.
Yes, Alien Syndrome was another one.
They charged them like $500,000 for those like 4 or 5 games.
Really?
That's what iArcade paid out. So I mean,
Yeah.
if iArcade's willing to pay
Yeah.
that, that sets a big precedent up for other companies and what they're going to have
Yeah.
to pay in order to get their arcade games.
Hmm.
I know with Arcade1Up, that was one of the hampering factors of why they had a hard time working with Sega. Was John D always said iArcade overpaid so much for those licenses, it killed us trying to work with Sega in the future. We just couldn't work with them.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like Jason's saying,
well, it's still amazing that they're able to keep Midway and Midway on there from Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers is a lot of money too. I understand Warner Brothers is like $1 million.
yeah, I know. I heard a rumor. AtGames approached Midway a couple of years ago about Mortal Kombat coming to AtGames, and yeah, the price point was like many, many zeros, and
Yes.
to the point
Yes.
where it was like they would have to sell the game packs for like $150 for 3 Mortal Kombat games, and I mean, how many people are going to pay that, right?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, because I follow Antstream Arcade
Yeah,
as well, and when they first started out, they had Mortal Kombat. They had a bunch of those games on there. They don't anymore.
yeah.
Probably for the same reason. The license went up and they just couldn't do it.
It's a shame too because everybody loves Sega and stuff like that, but man, Sega, good luck. I really hope they do a good job of recreating their classic titles this year because,
Hmm.
man, they're making it so hard for everybody else to, relive and love what they put out earlier. So,
Yeah.
moving away from those things, we've got the possibility of new Wave Toys coming out. There's another unknown and that we should hear more about in April, May, coming out from another character known in the home arcade space. This guy, John D. Rumors
Yeah, I
keep
think I heard of him.
persisting rumors keep persisting that he might be doing something in the near future, that John D is going to start his own company. John D Up, we called it. Mystery Encoder, what's happening? Good to see
Hey.
you. Charlie Chuck, please don't say John D. I'm sorry, Charlie. He is making a cab. I don't know what to tell you. Kevin Clausen says, who is John D? So that's the unknown quantity. John D might
Yeah.
move back into this space, might be coming out with his own company. What do you think John D is going to make? What is he going to bring to the space? From what I've heard, he's been listening to all the audience feedback.
Yep.
Decadent Dave, are you console kits? Funny story. We were talking about it. We were making a joke how both Arcade1Up and Golden Tee, there's rumors out there. Both Arcade1Up and New Wave Toys, there's rumors out there they're both making Golden Tee cabs.
Right.
So then the rumor then came up with John is also making a Golden Tee cab, but he couldn't get the rights to actually call it Golden Tee, so he's going to call it Golden D. Jasmine LeBeer says, yet another Street Fighter cab from John D. I have a theory. I think what John D is going to do is, I think John D is going to offer an a la carte cab. That's my theory.
I think it's an interesting theory. I know it was something that he was pushing for towards
Yep.
the end of his run. We already talked about the MVSX. That was kind of his baby. He
Yep.
was really interested in doing that, from what I understand. And like he's, again, going back to what we talked about in terms of recreations and all of it. He's been saying that he's very interested in recreations more than
Yep.
just some multicade with artwork on it and whatever. That he claims he always pushed for that at Arcade1Up. I don't know how true that is. If you go back and look at certain things that he's said in the past and certain cabs that he's pushed and whatever, but that may have just been corporate. We're making it, I gotta push it. Whatever he said behind doors, we'll never 100% know. But he's been saying a lot lately that he is a huge proponent of more accurate recreations. So could he be going the same route that we think New Wave Toys is going, and looking to make something that's a more faithful recreation?
Charlie
That's great.
Chuck. I don't think Charlie Chuck likes John D. No one is doing
Look,
an accurate, here we go, accurate artwork form factor cab with a downloadable store. Maybe something like Street Fighter with other downloadable, purchasable Capcom games.
yeah.
Jason, you might be onto something there.
Look, you do something in like a Big Blue or an what's it, HS5 form factor, a machine that was designed to be a machine that you just put any game in,
Yeah.
basically. And it makes a little more sense for it to be something that could, like you said, potentially be downloadable. You limit it to that license. You can only have Capcom games in it. A la carte, you put the ones you want on there and you go. And so many of them were, a joystick and 6 buttons. And, even the games that didn't use full 6 buttons, you still got a similar enough control scheme there that you can get away with it.
Yeah, what's to say that, he isn't making a variety of cabs, like you said. He could make a Capcom multi-cab that does have, like,
Sure.
just like you said, he could make a midway multi-cab. John is coming from a space where he likes the idea of a la carte cabs. He also likes the concept of, doing arcade recreations. So maybe it's a melding of both those worlds. Maybe it's a multicade with a little touch of Arcade1Up tied in too. How's that sound?
I think it sounds interesting. I'm just wondering, does he have the capability to do that himself? I mean, who would he obviously he'd have to be partnering with somebody to do it. I don't think it's just him. I think he's got the clout. I think he's got the connections to get those licenses and make something happen. But who else is it with him actually building these damn things? That's the other side of that.
Here, Mystery and Cody asked the question, but is this a ditch effort to make some money or an actual new company to fill the space iArcade left behind? I don't know. I think John D really likes the space. He wants to be involved in the space. He wants to offer a product to the space.
Yeah.
The question is, what can he offer and who can he work with? I don't know much right now. I know John is close to the people at Unico. Maybe that's some kind of collaboration they could talk about. Maybe collab with IKEA, Jason. we don't know what he's doing. We know that whatever is going to happen, we should know at the end of this month. Sometime in April, we'll get the base. You mean the iArcade space that failed? Charlie doesn't like iArcade either.
Oh, no. He's not pulling any punches, but then again, he never does.
No, and he didn't like his time at iArcade. What happened with iArcade was iArcade screwed him on their return policy, and he never forgave it. That was it. Game over for iArcade. Then their return policy was horrible. But iArcade did fail. But I think the reason iArcade failed wasn't because it was a bad concept. I think it was a good concept. It was just they didn't have the connections or ability to bring in the titles they needed to bring in to really sell their product. Like, I mean, how long could a product last when you're like, hey guys, new game this week, Santa Throw.
Yeah.
I felt like throwing my arcade out the window. Santa Throw week.
Yeah, there were some weeks that you just went, oh no. What are they doing?
It's not going in a good direction here, Bill.
No.
Some weeks you're like, Saturn, oh my God, this thing's incredible. Like, think of the possibilities. And then there was like 9 weeks of just crap.
Beers us. Yeah. It's all right. I'm looking forward to my Viper board.
Yeah, I got to get a Viper board, and once I confirm that it works with the gold, I'm actually going to get my Dead Cells. I'm going to get a Dead Cells gold back. That's the plan. Then I can put whatever. Hey, I'm not throwing any shade. If you like Santa Throw, man, that's up to you. But for those of us with hope that the AAA titles were coming, that didn't give us a lot of hope. That's all.
No.
Yeah, whatever it's got to be online. And I think, I mean, you look at John D. What does John D like really, really love? The fight game community. So Charlie brought up the fact about like his bitches are going to buy it or whatever. But and it's obviously something that's going to be tailored to people that are like mine, like John. So this very well may be a cab that's set out to be like one of these ultimate like fighting game type things, right?
Could be. Oh, look, considering what's going on with Unico and all, a candy cab does kind of make a lot of sense there too.
And
That seems to be a big direction lately. People are very interested in these candy cabs.
yeah, the Chulix, the Vulix, and now the Unica Nova Blast. If you follow Neo Severa on Twitter, he
Yeah.
actually just
Hmm.
got his Unico Nova Blast there a couple days ago. Showed the box dimensions. It's in his house, so very cool. That's a different product though, because
Yeah.
I call it home arcade, but I almost want to not call it home arcade because it is
Yeah.
100% a home arcade product, but it's also very similar to going out and getting something like a Rec Room Masters. This is
Yeah.
mainly a shell, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a total do-it-yourself product. It is just a shell, and you gotta put the guts in there. You gotta put, whether it's a Pi or a PC or a console,
Yeah.
whatever. You gotta come a JAMA board, whatever it is. You gotta put something in there. Otherwise, it's a very expensive, very pretty paperweight.
Yeah, and this is where the mix comes in. There's a lot of good with it. It's got that giant screen, that 26-inch monitor, the ability to swap it from horizontal to vertical depending on what you want to do with it, right?
Yeah.
That is super dope. But it's
Yeah.
sit down, and it's one of those things where it's a really cool option, especially if you want to play a bunch of different games. But one of the things that puts it into home arcade and makes it interesting here is the nostalgia factor of, if you're nostalgic for those candy cabs, there's a lot of people
Right.
that play the fighting games and the Japanese culture and stuff like that. They love those candy cabs,
Yeah.
but they weren't prevalent really here in the US. They're only somewhat
No.
prevalent. So to
Nope.
me,
I,
I
didn't
think it's
see one for the
100%
first
home
time.
arcade, but go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's okay. Sorry, I interrupted you, but I didn't see one for the first time until like 2 years ago at a gaming convention when they had a bunch of them set up. I've never seen one in an actual arcade. Not here. You
No,
said, look,
not regularly.
I know,
I
like I said, I'm very into the Japanese culture. I know that over there, that's all you saw in a lot of the
yeah.
arcades. So, but here, I think people are more interested in them just for what you can do with them, not for the nostalgia of them.
There's some people like Fox went out of his way. Fox spent like $5,000. I think it might have been $4,000 to get an Astro City Mini here and then to fool around with it and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it's a much cheaper option for somebody who wants to recreate that experience, especially a giant 26-inch Unico monitor. Controls are really
Yeah,
good. All the hookups are really good. So you can do that. But I mean, if you don't have the nostalgia and you don't really want to mess around with it almost falls outside the realm of home arcade, because most of us aren't into these, project type things. We're not buying Arcade1Ups because we want to see different skins and go get a bunch of stuff to put into it or hook a PC into it. We buy
right.
Arcade1Up because we want to buy something, put it together, and then play it. Like
Yes.
AtGames, like it's cool that you can
Hmm.
do BYOG, but most of us are buying AtGames because we can just play it like it is. Or you can
Yes.
very easily with an ALU
Hmm.
put a bunch of stuff on a USB stick and put it in.
Yeah. When I first got started looking into, the home arcade space, yeah, I saw that comment. Really interesting, and that doesn't surprise me at all. When I first started looking into the home arcade space and thinking, maybe I'll get something for my house, my first thought was to basically buy like a do-it-yourself kit. I figured I
Yeah.
was going to have to buy a shell. I was a little bit familiar with, like, say, the Raspberry Pi and playing around with that, so figured I could put that in there. I was very familiar, obviously, with PCs. I've been playing MAME since MAME first came out, so I knew how that all worked and all. But then when I saw that there were companies like Arcade1Up that were making the type of machines they were making and all, I said, well, screw this. It's so much easier to just buy something and play it than to take the time to put something together and figure it out. I mean, that's more time than I had and wanted to invest. At least at that point, I still have, some ideas. I have I have the Super Pac-Man Partycade, and I
Yep.
have been saying for since I bought it that one of these days I'm going to gut it and put like a 60-in-1 in it.
I had the Super Pac-Man Partycade last year for exactly 4 months, I think, maybe less. I got it because it was on sale through our shopping channel here in Canada. Went on sale for like $130, and I was like, if I'm ever gonna buy a Partycade, this is the time. 130
Yeah.
bucks. I bought it.
Yep.
Actually really impressed. The Partycade is a good product if you can get it at the right price. Great
Yes.
screen, controls and everything, especially when they had the light up marquee. Partycade could be a good product for Arcade1Up. I think that's one of the reasons Costco is so high on Arcade1Up bringing them in right now. That's why they're doing NBA Jam. That's why they're doing Pac-Man. And who knows what else might show up in a Partycade form factor at Costco through Arcade1Up. Good form factor for them at the right price point.
Yes, they should definitely. I do agree that they should definitely, do more of those, because we really didn't get much of anything last year in a Partycade either. I have the Super Pac-Man one. I have the Defender one, which I love the Defender one to death. I said I've got the Mortal Kombat Deluxe now. Most of the games are on both of those things, with a little bit of, you got Gorf and Sinistar on the Partycade that you don't have on the Mortal Kombat Deluxe and all. I would still rather play half those games on the Partycade than on the Mortal Kombat. It's just the control scheme for Defender is perfect. It's a great little machine. I will never touch that one. That one I love.
Yeah, they were supposed to come out with a Defender 3/4 scale arcade with the Defender layout based on the Partycade a couple of years ago, and for whatever reason it got screwed up. Whether there wasn't retailer support, I don't know why, but man, oh man, like that's my dream cab. 19K Fox wrote me before his show yesterday, and he said, if Arcade1Up can make 2 cabs going forward this year, and of course knowing what you know, what would you want them to be? And of course my answer was Robotron 2084.
Sure.
And then I said the second one is everything Robotron 2084 and have everything in XL. And then he told me I couldn't do the XL as an answer. I had to give another deluxe cab. So I said the Defender cab with the Defender control layout from the Partycade and the games lineup. And then, of course, I also mentioned the Centipede with a vertical screen. So neither one of those.
I would also like to see them take the Galaga Partycade that they did and do that with those games in a 3/4 scale rather than the Galaga they did, which was just the Pac-Man XL with a different skin on it. The problem with this, somebody brought up something interesting when I did my Class of 81 review, and I hadn't really given it a lot of thought. You add games on there like GOT Plus and Bosconian and whatever, and they're an 8-way joystick, whereas, well, let's face it, Galaga and Galaxian are basically just a 2-way back and forth. They're not even really 4-way, and you screw up some of the controls for some of the other games. But I still think that Partycade, from what people have said who've owned it, is another really good one, similar to Defender. What is it? Is it Ollie's? I think it might be. No, not Ollie's. It's Odd Lot.
Yeah.
Has been selling a bunch of these Partycades, and they've been doing them like you buy the Partycade for $300 and you get a coupon for $300. So basically, it's like you could get 2 of them for the price of one.
Buy one,
if
get
you
one.
Wanted.
BOGO Partycades.
And I've seriously there's one fairly close to me. I've been seriously considering. I wonder if I should get that Galaga one just to have those other games.
Really quickly, why no Punch-Out Arcade? Is it the license? Yes, it's Nintendo.
100% the license.
100% the license. But also, if they were to do it, that'd be an interesting one to do because of the 2 screens. They would either have to do a vertical monitor and you get 2 little tiny screens for your game, or they'd have to figure out some way to do like a 32-inch vertical monitor and then do 2 square screens in it. So yeah, that'd be a tough one to do.
Yeah.
But again, Nintendo's not working with Arcade1Up. They got no interest in doing that.
No, they're not working. They're not working with anybody unless Quarter Arcade really does.
That blew my mind when he was like, "Yeah, we're talking to Nintendo," and I was like, "You liar! There's no way." So before we move away from Unico, there's one other thing. I don't know if you know this guy 19K Fox, but he's a greasy Unico insider. He bought 3/4 of all the Phoenix monitor series, Unico Phoenix monitor series they put out there. And through that relationship, Unico started telling him everything. And so one of the things he's been talking about recently is that maybe the concept that John D floated to Arcade1Up back in the day about the Unico, not Unico, SNK
Hmm.
machine with the a la carte mode, that might be dead at Arcade1Up, but there's a
Yeah.
chance that Unico may do a Big Red XL with that 26-inch Phoenix monitor series Unico monitor. That would be a very big and very expensive home arcade product, but how cool would that be? Again, and you got to keep in mind,
So you're saying there's a
I'm
chance?
saying there's a chance, but then again, I have always said this. I'll go back to when they first announced the SNK, Unico SNK MBSX, is
Yep.
that SNK is a very niche brand, always has been. Like talking about the
Yes.
SNK home products, all that stuff, super niche compared to like more market. So it's going to be a smaller market for it, but I think people would pay for it. Like if it was a giant big red with a 26-inch monitor, I would definitely be more interested in buying that than even
Mhm.
I would be buying the Nova Blast, even though I think the Nova Blast is cool as shit.
Yeah, me too. I love the SNK. Now, wasn't there some rumor for a while there that they didn't have that license anymore, or was that a John D special because Arcade One Up was looking at them?
I can't give you a definitive answer on that, but I think right now, seeing how they just released that new SNK MBSX Mini,
Yes.
the red one, I think they have the license
Okay.
back. So if they have the
Yeah.
license back from the Prince, I forget what Prince bought it, the Arabian
Oh.
Prince or whoever bought it. If they have the license and they can do an SNK Big Red with a
Hmm.
26-inch monitor, I would
Yeah.
be all over that. That'd be a
Yeah.
day one purchase, depending on
Yeah.
price,
Now
depending
they'd
on
have to
games.
they'd have to rethink the form factor a little bit, right? I didn't own one, but I know like James Taste Everything made a comment about they need to fix the design. I know you said it too. Isn't the control a little
Horrible the
yeah,
way they
like
set it up,
short and
because like basically the way the control panel comes out, it's flush with the base, so there's no control deck that really comes out over.
mhm,
So like when I sat on it with a stool, like there's no place to put your knees over the control panel, so it's almost like bear tight, so I found it really uncomfortable.
mhm.
So if they do it, they've got to do a more arcade accurate control. They can't do a bar top with a base. They've got to
Yeah.
do the real deal.
Yep. Yeah, you do a big red, like I said, almost like Arcade One I was thinking. You do a big red, you put a bunch of games on there, you have others you can download, and you add some kind of almost like the pixel marquee that AtGames has, so that you can change the games that are up there the
The
way
four
that they
games,
look,
the
the
four
four games that
slots.
are up
Yeah,
there.
that's smart actually.
Oh, baby.
That's smart. I didn't think about doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. That would just put it over the top.
Stringer Films is telling us that he is regular today. His brand muffins are helping, but he just ate a meatball sub, and man, does he need to poop. Thank you very much for
Thanks
being
for
here, Stringer
sharing.
Films. So now we'll go back to the last thing, and we've talked about all these new companies, new opportunities coming up. It's all pretty exciting for the home arcade space, like Unico with Nova Blast options, Unico with a big red options. The shit
Yeah.
that Glenn and New Wave are doing. So much hope for those of us who want arcade recreations. That something really cool and really
Yeah.
that's fan base instead of retailer based is coming. And then, of course, AtGames has really turned up the juice on what they're doing the last little while. Pinball, they're just kicking ass, and hopefully console like arcade wise, they could be kicking ass too.
Hmm.
But is Arcade1Up ready to let the throne go? I mean, they're still the big dog in the space. There's no denying that. They've had a rough couple of years, but we've seen one cab this year. That was a little disappointing with X-Men 97
Hmm.
in some ways. In other ways, very cool for other people that don't care about the nostalgia side. They're just like $4.99 Marvel vs. Capcom 2 Deluxe. Sign me up. I don't give a
Yes.
shit what's on it.
Yep.
But we don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year. A lot of it means that whatever happens in the next little while, they can turn around and they might pop out 4 or 5 brand new games that are awesome. They'll release an XL that isn't Golden Tee. We don't know what will happen. All we know right now is it's been really quiet, more quiet than we've ever really noticed from Arcade1Up. and the first release is filling us with a lot of faith that there's more accurate arcade recreations coming.
No, and I, the rumor I keep hearing is that it is going to just be like, more of the same. It's going to be 2023 all over again. It's going to be a lot of just re-releases. So again,
But there could be new things. You don't know. It could be a new casino.
No, there could totally be.
Could be a new casino-cade. We got the crane game
claw machine.
Coming. Claw machine.
We're still waiting on a claw machine.
P-Dub's darts. Darts is coming.
Arcade1Up coin pusher.
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't want to be pessimistic, and I'm trying not to be. I'm hopeful because many times have built a bunch of different arcades out of their products. Their products are one of the reasons I'm here today doing this stuff. It's what brought me into the home arcade space. Spent a lot of hours and had a lot of fun with their products, and I wanted to continue. I'm hopeful that they're still going to push. They're still going to be competitive. They're still going to do cool things. But if not, at least there's a bunch of new companies and a bunch of other companies that seem to be looking to fill the space and do some of the things that Arcade1Up isn't willing to do. So,
yeah, look, I've always been a yeah.
Oh, you wanted to read that, did you?
No, that's okay. I got it. I've always been a big proponent of competition in the marketplace. I think competition is always good. I think it drives innovation. I think it helps pricing for consumers in some respects. So I would love to see more companies come into this space. I think ultimately, no matter what happens, Arcade1Up will be okay, at least for this year. Even if it's more of the same old, I think next year might actually be more of a deciding factor, depending on how things go this year. If some of these companies pop up, if they start taking some of their market share, then they may need to restart. They may need to rethink things by next year if they want to stay relevant. I think you've got a 1 year leeway to basically do the same thing and get away with it. But if more companies start popping up and there's more interest in the home arcade space, looking elsewhere, then 2025 has got to change for them. They can't just sit on their laurels and just think they're going to do the same thing over and over again, even if it's just even if their bread and butter is, just selling to the retail space.
I think Arcade1Up will be fine. Like, I think they'll survive long after a lot of our interest will be here. I think the core audience will probably move away and start doing other things before Arcade1Up ever goes out of business. They'll still be selling Pac-Man cabs in 2032. We're all off doing other things. Who knows? So I don't think they're going away, but I think you're right about that 1 year window. I think they got another year before they lose a large portion of their fan base. Large portion of their fan base says there's got to be something else out there. So that's why I'm excited about these other companies.
Yep.
Maybe we're going to get the collaboration of the year in 2025. My Arcade1Up. Everything's made with plastic.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Why would you say if they wanted to restart their brand, they release an Afterburner cab? Kevin Clausen says they'll be around to make an Atari 75th. All right, guys. So anyways, like I told Bill when I got him on the camera tonight, I had about 15% of an idea what to do for a show. And that's more than usual, but that takes me to the end of what I had. But I thought we'd take a couple minutes, answer a couple questions. If you guys got any thoughts, any ideas, any rumors you want to talk about, now's your time to ask us. We'll do it for a couple minutes. If there's interest, if there's not, we'll call it a night. Here's the one I'd like to talk about. Full-size baby cakes featuring nostalgia. Did you see the episode of Super Game Room Dudes? Because there was a couple where he actually played on it, and he was like, I think this is a really smart idea from Arcade1Up. I think it's the smartest idea they've ever done.
I didn't see anywhere he was actually playing on it, but I know he's talked about it quite a bit, and with nostalgia, I'm never sure how much of that is him being serious and how much of that is him being complete bullshit.
He was serious about that. He really, really did think that the baby cave was like a really good idea. And one of the things that he was focused on was the fact that it was the Paw Patrol game, because Pac-Man, of course, was
Yeah.
taking an arcade. It was that they were making their own games. He was like, "Oh, this is huge. This has so many possibilities for collaboration and stuff." And I was like, "Oh man, you're such an idiot." Yep. And Charlie Jack says, I'll never forget him, let him take that horrible take because he was serious about it. He was 100%. He
Mm,
really did think that was going to be the one.
nope.
Louis P makes a really good point. I've said this a couple times. I really agree with this. One of the things that I find to be really off-putting about Arcade1Up is
Yeah.
they have an audience. They have a niche. They have a group of people that will literally just buy their product. But it's almost like they're almost embarrassed or they don't like us as a consumer base. And I don't know how this works. Like, I talked to Nostalgia about it because he said, "Oh, well, you don't understand business." You know, Nostalgia being the edgelord that he is. He's like, "Honestly, you can't market to your core audience because they only make up about 10% of your sales." So maybe he's right in that aspect, but
Mm,
it does
yeah, but
feel
I've always believed, and I've done some personal sales as well, and I was always taught that it's easier to sell a product to an existing customer than it is to go out and find a brand new one.
according to the office, it's 100 times more difficult to find new customers. So uh, I think there's a way to do it where you can do mainstream marketing without being so off-putting to your core audience. It's almost like
Hmm.
sometimes Arcade One Up goes out of their way to make sure they know we're not who they're thinking of. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that goes back to
Absolutely.
this whole no, I do think that that goes back to, this idea that they're not selling to us, they're selling to the retailers. And Walmart doesn't care who comes in and buys the cab as long as somebody comes in and buys the cab. So, you know, if we think we can sell Pac-Man year after year after year, keep giving us Pac-Man.
Yeah. Another thing Stockjack brings up here, and it's a really good point, and I've talked about this a lot. One of one of the if you're ever going to do a rise and fall of
Mhm.
Arcade One Up documentary, one of the things that we have to remember is one of the only big reasons Arcade One Up became as successful as it did was because of the pandemic. And if it wasn't for
Yes.
the fact so many people were locked in their home and they didn't have money to go out to rest, like they weren't spending money going out to restaurants, they weren't spending money on vacations, they weren't spending their entertainment budget on outside activities anymore. They had to make their house their recreation space. A product like Arcade One Up really grew within the pandemic, but now that the pandemic is over, people aren't spending money on their home entertainment the same way they were spending it before. There's less people willing to take a gamble on it. So
Hmm.
you got a two-sided dice here now that the demand for Arcade One Up that was there during the pandemic totally gone. Plus, with the rising
Yeah.
costs and after the pandemic, coming out of it, like costs just went nuts. Inflation went bananas out of the pandemic. So people don't have the expendable income to buy these anymore. And then Arcade One Up are coming out and they're like, "Hey, here's Time Crisis, and it's only 750. Yeah."
Yeah.
So you know, it's one of those things that I think Arcade One Up knows it. The demand isn't there like it was. So they've really got to re-strategize on how they're going to move forward their product too. They can't, and we can't expect the same company that was there 2 years ago when they were making record sales because they're not anymore, right?
Right.
So do you think that some of the crap that we're saying that this company seems to be in a downward trend really comes from a place that we don't understand the new market for these products either?
Yeah, that could be. I mean, I think there's some possibility there. And we don't even know at this point, we don't even know the makeup of the company. It said John D's gone, Scott's gone. They got rid of a lot of other people in the background too. So, and it seems like a much younger staff is there now. So, I don't know. I mean, you're trying to push to a younger audience, but how much nostalgia do younger people have for some of these older machines? The core audience is us. It's the people who grew up on this stuff, who went to an arcade and played Pac-Man and played Robotron and played Street Fighter, and all, and go, oh, cool, I can have one in my house now. These kids who are playing, Fortnite don't care about Pac-Man and Street Fighter.
Fork Knife? Is that a new game?
Fortnite.
Fork Knife.
Yeah, exactly.
When the kids talk about it, I always say that. I hate Fortnite. Stringer Films, $2 super chat. 1UP should start filling their cabs with groceries. I mean, that wouldn't hurt.
They're just about as expensive.
I think they tried to do that with the Space Invaders cab they did a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. No, they filled it with Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh.
Yeah, I think. I pressed the wrong button. Hold on, I'm coming for you, Darren Kane. There's a ceiling for this product in physical space, in nostalgic audience, etc. Yeah, I agree with that too. There's a ceiling for it. Sometimes the ceiling's been hit. It's just sad. I will say this. As someone who's been here right from the very first stage, I sat there the other night playing on my Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition Deluxe. And it was like such a full scale moment. Like, we went from that very first cab to this, where I think, like, they get it. Like, this is such, an advanced product compared to what they first came out with. We have online, we have a bunch of games, we have a really good form factor. The only problem with it, of course, it's not Excel. And it's sad that they finally got to a place where they were offering products that honestly are so good compared to what they originally were. And it's almost like we're in kind of like a declining interest space in the home arcade world right now. Maybe not, and maybe it's out of their hands completely. It's not that they can't give us what we want. The market's just not there for them to do it on a large scale. John D said another thing too. He said, one of the hard things about this, and we don't understand it, we're always like, oh, they're raping us with price. But there has to be some kind of magical equation with the licensing, with the production, of how much money you need to make to actually make it as a business when you're selling these cabs. And if you're doing a run of like 3,000 cabs, maybe it's just not worth it to do it. Like, they're not running a not-for-profit here. They're running a business. Maybe it's not profitable to do quantities of these cabs at that number. And if that's all they can sell, why do it?
Right. No, and that makes total sense. It said, if you're going to stay in business, you have to make money. It's just that simple. So it's got to make sense for them to make it. But, and it's interesting you talk about that Street Fighter cab, which I have that too, and I think that's part of another problem right now, is that Arcade1Up is very confusing, because they'll come out with something as gorgeous as that cab, which is exactly what you want in terms of nostalgia and a great games list and everything. And then they give us X-Men 97. It's like,
and Atari 50th. Yeah, I know.
Atari 50th. And make up your mind. What are you doing? It's like they're trying to play two different sides of the highway.
I think what they're trying to do is they are trying to keep their retailers happy, and they're trying to keep their licensors happy. From what I know, people like you, Michael B, and shows like 1UP Weekly help them get very popular. They need bigger monitors. I don't disagree with that. That's what I liked about the XL cabs, the bigger monitors. Yeah. Arcade1Up has between 50 and 100 employees. Maybe they should be in the new Wave Toys range of 5 to 10. I don't know if they have 50 to 100 employees anymore. I don't think so. It's a very small shop from what I understand.
Yeah.
I love this. Dr. Torque. I've been out of the arcade space for 30 years. Are there no new licenses from that period? The problem is there's lots of licenses. The problem, Dr. Torque, is they've gone to retailers with stuff that should be can't miss stuff, like Track and Field was one. Another one was Double Dragon. And they couldn't get the retailers to buy them. Like, and you're like, how the hell, like, are you running an arcade company where you can't get retailers to buy Double Dragon, Track and Field, Qbert? I mean, you know, you have no business running a home arcade company if you can't get people to buy that. So, I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, guys, we'd keep you here all night, but I want to say thank you once again to Bill's Retro Gaming Show. Bill just did a badass review of the AtGames Legends 4KP. Go check it out. Bill, also like me, does a lot of news content, so if you want the latest and greatest on news, did you cover that Barrio's barbecue yet?
No, not yet.
Should I be? I was going to make a video about it too, but I was like, all I'm going to do is tell people to go watch P-Dub's video. I don't know if that's a good idea. I was waiting on some more news. Maybe I could do it like a double video. Anyways.
Yeah, it's unfortunately it's been a little quiet.
Oh man, is it ever? That's okay though, because I've been playing lots of games.
Yeah.
What if John D bought 1-Up? Interesting. A lot of people said that. I don't think John as an individual would have the cash flow to buy 1-Up. As much as we say, oh, 1-Up, you know, it's not what it was. It's still pretty, you know, John D buying iArcade. I can see that 100%. I think John would have had the capital to purchase that, but 1-Up, that's a tough one, really tough one. But thank you very much for the super chat, Vic Vicious. That's great. Yeah, go check out Bill's Retro Gaming Show, guys. Really super nice guy. One of the best all-around people in this community. Really fun guy. Loves the stuff. Loves retro gaming. Only 10% of his background is green screen. He's definitely one of the guys to go check out. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Bill. I appreciate it. Thankfully, I could actually hear out of both ears tonight. It was a close call, wasn't it? I told Bill the grossest story before we started. I'll tell you guys.
Yeah, let's not get into that again.
No, I'm telling them. Go
ahead.
All right. It's so gross. You guys are going to be so grossed out. But before we did the show, I've been having a problem with my left ear. I couldn't hear out of it, and I guess I had had a wax build up. So my wife grabbed a syringe with some hot water and flushed me out before the show, so I could actually hear out of both ears. It's wonderful. What a disgusting story. Oh, so gross.
See, what I didn't say at the beginning was my wife is actually a nurse. She'd be like, "I got that. It's no problem."
I didn't know if she should be doing it or not. Like, I'm so worried. At first, I was telling her, I was like, my ear is like blocked up. I can't hear out of it. I'm getting all this pressure. I'm really uncomfortable. She was like, "Do you want me to take the tweezers to it?" And I was like, "God, no! You can't put tweezers in my ear." Sudafed will drain your ear. Maybe I should have tried that. Oh man, I'm great now, but I was so uncomfortable since last Thursday. I did the Super Game Room Dudes Friday with it in full like inflamed mode, and it was not good, guys. So anyways, now that I've discussed it, all of you, have a wonderful night. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week for Chill and Chat. And again, go check out Bill. Bill, when are you going to bring the ALP back? When is that going back to the...
I have to get in touch with them for the FedEx info, and then later on, over the next couple of days, I'll start to take the thing apart and pack it up.
You got a mad little pixel it, like what he did with the MVSX. Say, I don't know where it is. It's gone. It's disappeared. I don't know. Do you think you'll pick one up now?
I do. I think I'm going to... First off, if I do it, I have to get it with the SSF kit, so it's going to cost me more because I have to have that built in. I'm not going to do it myself, but I'll probably wait to see what other themes they come up with. Wait for something that I really like whether maybe Indiana Jones or a Star Wars or Marvel theme.
Oh,
if they do something like that.
I don't know if you're a Back to the Future guy or not. Back to the
I
Future.
love Back to the Future. That would be a cool one. Pinball would be a cool. There's a bunch of different ones that I think would be awesome, but right now $2,000 is a bit much for me, even if with the pre-order I know it would be a little bit less, so I'll start putting some money aside and wait for a theme that I really like. But yeah, I do think eventually I'm going to wind up getting one within the next year or so, as they start to come out with these different themes.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'll get notification mine shipped relatively soon, and I'll have it within the next week or so. I got a Mortal Kombat Deluxe coming from the Brick. And I ordered it like back
Nice.
on the 29th, and I was like, oh, well, should be here in a week or whatever. No sign of it, nothing. I called the brick today and they're like, oh, yeah, it's scheduled for you to pick it up on like the 21st. And I was like, 21st? That's a long wait. I
Wow.
thought you were joking when you said that. So, yeah, it's going to be a while before I got that. So, I want something to come. I got that itch, that itch you're waiting on things to get here. So.
Yeah, I know. You fell off the wagon. You're rebuilding.
Oh, yeah. Completely. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night. Thanks again, Bill. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.